Farmer finds green eggs on his farm. What hatches leaves him in tears. Farmer Jonas had always known the hardship of a life spent in endless work and quiet sacrifice. Every day before the first blush of dawn, he rose from his creaking bed in his weathered farmhouse on the outskirts of a small Georgia town. The land he worked had been in his family for generations, yet in recent years the farm had withered under the pressure of rising feed costs, unpredictable markets, and a sense of looming obsolescence. Each day he labored in the fields, repaired broken fences, and tended to his modest flock, all the while nursing a single, stubborn hope that he might turn his failing enterprise around with a simple yet transformative investment. Jonas had heard whispers in town about an exotic, high-quality male chicken, a rooster of rare breed, prized for its striking appearance and the promise of a revitalized flock. The idea stirred something in him. He imagined that with a few of these magnificent roosters among his hens, the quality of his eggs and the appeal of his meat might command higher prices, drawing in curious buyers and perhaps even a new market altogether. So, with cautious determination, he began saving every spare cent he could muster. Day by day, he set aside money from his meager earnings, coins collected from extra shifts at the market, from odd jobs around neighboring farms, and from the small profits that barely kept his head above water. Every coin placed into an old tin box, hidden beneath a loose floorboard, represented not just a fraction of a dollar, but a fragment of his future hope. For months, Jonas endured long, lonely days of hard work and sleepless nights filled with dreams of prosperity. He counted his savings, measured against the ever-growing costs of keeping the farm alive, and prayed that fate would grant him a breakthrough. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of struggle, the day arrived when he had gathered enough money to place the order. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, he made the purchase, ordering what he believed would be 3 or 4 robust, exotic roosters that could herald the rebirth of his dwindling enterprise. The package came on a spring morning when the sky was painted with soft hues of orange and pink. A battered parcel, its exterior marked with a faded seal from a reputed supplier, sat waiting on Jonas's doorstep. His heart pounded with anticipation as he carried the package into his small kitchen, recalling the assurances over the phone and the promises of transformation. With careful, deliberate hands, he sliced through the tape and unwrapped the layers of straw and crinkled paper inside. Instead of finding the multiple majestic roosters he had expected, Jonas found only a single animal cradled within the parcel. For a long, silent moment he stared at the lone specimen. Its feathers shimmered in an intense, almost surreal blue, unlike the common reds and browns he was accustomed to seeing on farmyard fowls. Its eyes, dark and unblinking, held a curious mix of calm and intensity. A puzzled frown creased Jonas's weathered face as he murmured to himself, "I ordered at least 3 or 4. Maybe prices have gone up. I'll sort it out." His practical mind quickly rationalized the discrepancy. Roosters came in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Surely this must be an exceptionally rare breed, a unique specimen that would set his farm apart. Deciding not to waste the opportunity, Jonas set the blue specimen, he began calling it Blue for the striking hue of its plumage, among his familiar flock of hens. In the following days, Blue roamed freely in the coop, pecking at scattered feed and walking with a measured, almost regal gait. The hens, initially startled by the newcomer's unusual color, soon resumed their daily routines, accepting the odd addition as just another member of the flock. Life on the farm, though marked by the same endless cycle of chores and routine, had gained a subtle undercurrent of excitement. For a while, Jonas's daily work continued as normal. Yet in the back of his mind, the peculiar arrival of Blue stirred persistent questions. One early morning, as he made his rounds in the coop, Jonas noticed something that made his heart skip a beat. Nestled among the familiar white and brown eggs were several that bore a ghostly, light green tint. Their shells were smooth and unblemished, yet the strange coloration was unlike anything he had ever seen. Jonas picked up one of the eggs, turning it over in his calloused hands. "This isn't right," he whispered, a note of concern creeping into his voice. At first, he suspected that perhaps a change in the hen's diet or a minor illness was affecting their egg production. The thought that something was amiss with his flock unnerved him, but he clung to the hope that it was a temporary aberration. As the days passed, more of these light green eggs began to appear, each one intensifying his worry. The sight of the eerie-coloured eggs amid the normal ones became a daily reminder of the strange circumstances that had entered his life. Even as he performed his routine, feeding the hens, cleaning the coops and repairing the aging barn, the unsettling presence of the green eggs shadowed every moment. Jonas's unease grew with each egg collected. The familiar sounds of clucking and the soft rustling of feathers in the coop now carried an undercurrent of mystery. He couldn't shake the feeling that something about Blue, its unusual blue plumage, was connected to the bizarre phenomenon. The green eggs seemed to be a silent warning, a signal that his world was shifting in ways he could neither explain nor control. Unable to bear the mounting dread, Jonas finally decided to seek professional help. He phoned Dr. Carter, a trusted local veterinarian known for his keen eye and no-nonsense approach to animal health. Dr. Carter arrived on a sweltering afternoon, his presence both reassuring and authoritative as he began examining the eggs with careful scrutiny. For long minutes, Dr. Carter observed the light green eggs, running his fingers over their smooth shells and peering at them as if trying to decipher a hidden code. His brow furrowed, and a heavy silence fell between him and Jonas. Finally, the vet spoke in a hushed tone that betrayed his shock. "Sir, you haven't just bred chickens," he said slowly, choosing his words with deliberate care. "You've accidentally created something entirely new." Jonas's heart pounded in his ears. The implication was clear and startling. The green eggs were not simply a matter of poor nutrition or an isolated disease. They were the result of an extraordinary anomaly, a mixing of genetic lines that defied the natural order of ordinary poultry. Dr. Carter explained that the eggs contained subtle markers, genetic signatures hinting at a blend of traits from sources not typically found together in farm fowls. Though his mind struggled to accept the reality, Jonas couldn't help but recall the day of delivery. The solitary blue animal had seemed unusual, its intense colour and measured gait unlike any rooster he had ever seen. Now, faced with the mystery of the green eggs, he began to wonder if he had unwittingly received something far more exotic than a rare breed. Could it be that Blue was not merely an exotic rooster at all? The thought both terrified and intrigued him. News of the strange eggs quickly spread through the local community. Curious neighbours whispered among themselves, and soon the farm became a beacon for those drawn by the promise of a scientific marvel. High-level scientists and genetic experts arrived at Jonas's farm, their equipment and measured tones creating a stark contrast to the rustic simplicity of his daily life. They treated the unfolding events with a blend of clinical precision and palpable excitement, eager to study the anomaly firsthand. Under their careful examination, every aspect of the green eggs was documented. The experts conducted tests, ran genetic analyses, and compared the results with known profiles of domestic chickens. What emerged was a startling revelation. The genetic makeup of the eggs was unlike any they had ever encountered. The markers suggested a blend of domestic chicken traits interwoven with characteristics that were entirely unexpected, elements that did not conform to any standard breed. The results hinted at a genetic anomaly that defied simple explanation, leaving the experts puzzled and eager for further study. Though the scientists marveled at the discovery, Jonas felt a mounting sense of foreboding. His simple hope of reviving the farm had spiraled into a mystery that challenged every notion he had about nature. Every green egg was a silent testament to a fate beyond his control, a fate that had been set in motion by a mistake he could never have foreseen. One foggy morning, as a cold mist clung to the ground and the light of dawn filtered weakly through the grey sky, Jonas made his way to the coop with a mixture of dread and anticipation. The green eggs, each one a pale beacon of the extraordinary, lay nestled among the familiar white ones. His heart pounded as he watched one of the green eggs begin to tremble. Tiny cracks appeared along its surface, and Jonas held his breath as he edged closer. In that fragile moment, the egg split open, revealing a small, quivering form. Out emerged a creature that defied every expectation Jonas had held about what a typical chick should be. The hatchling's down was a luminous blend of blue and hints of iridescent green, its feathers catching the dim light in a way that made them shimmer. Its eyes, large and curious, seemed to take in the world with an intensity that was both endearing and unnerving. One by one, the other green eggs followed suit, and soon the coop was filled with a small brood of unusual hatchlings. The hens, normally so confident and maternal, recoiled at the sight. Their soft clucks were replaced by anxious murmurs as they instinctively moved away from the strange new additions to the flock. Jonas, torn between wonder and apprehension, could scarcely believe that his simple act of saving up for a prized male had led to this bewildering transformation. Each hatchling was a living paradox, a blend of the familiar domestic and a hint of something wild, a creature born from an unintentional crossing of very different lines. As the days turned into weeks, the hybrid chicks grew rapidly. Their once fluffy down gave way to sleek, iridescent feathers that shimmered in hues of blue and green. They moved with a quiet, almost predatory grace that set them apart from the rest of the flock. Every movement, every chirp, carried an air of mystery, a subtle hint that these were not ordinary chickens, but the offspring of a rare and startling genetic anomaly. Meanwhile, Blue, the solitary specimen that had sparked the entire chain of events, continued to roam the farm with an undeniable air of quiet authority. Unlike the hybrid chicks, Blue moved with a measured calm, its eyes ever watchful. Jonas began to notice that whenever Blue was near, the behavior of the other birds shifted. Hens would lower their heads or scurry away, and even the hybrid chicks would momentarily pause, as if acknowledging a silent command. It was as though Blue carried within it an aura that hinted at origins far beyond the usual, a quality that now lived on through the unusual offspring. Despite the growing scientific interest and the flurry of investigative activity, Jonas maintained his daily routine. He still rose before dawn, still tended to his fields and coops, though now every task was overshadowed by the ever-present enigma that had taken root on his land. Each day, as he collected eggs and fed the chickens, his eyes darted between the familiar and the extraordinary. The green eggs, in their unchanging quiet, continued to serve as a stark reminder that his farm was no longer the same. The breakthrough came one steamy afternoon when a team of genetic experts returned with new test results that promised to resolve the mounting mystery. Jonas sat on the porch of his farmhouse, the heavy Georgia heat hanging in the air, as the scientists discussed their findings with hushed urgency. According to their analysis, the genetic markers in the green eggs and the hybrid chicks revealed a startling truth. The contribution from the blue specimen was not what Jonas had expected. Its genetic input had merged with that of his local hens to produce a completely new lineage, one that carried traits both familiar and wild. The experts explained that the blue specimen's influence was not merely a superficial change in color or size, it had fundamentally altered the genetic blueprint of the offspring. The result was a breed that combined the resilience and hardiness of domestic chickens with unexpected elements that hinted at a more untamed origin. For the first time, Jonas could see the full picture. The light green eggs were not a mere aberration, but the physical manifestation of a genetic anomaly that defied conventional breeding practices. Though the scientists marveled at the discovery, Jonas felt a complex mix of emotions. His dream of turning the farm around had come at a cost he had never imagined, a cost that now involved not only the future of his livelihood, but the very boundaries between the familiar and the wild. The blue specimen, the single animal that had arrived in that battered parcel, had upended the natural order and thrust him into a world where fate and chance danced in dangerous unison. The news spread quickly beyond the small town. Journalists, researchers, and even investors began to take an interest in Jonas's farm. The once sleepy acreage became the epicenter of scientific inquiry and media frenzy. Yet despite the flurry of attention, the mystery remained only partially resolved. While the genetic evidence clearly pointed to an unexpected wild element in the creation of the new breed, many questions still lingered. How had such a wild creature ended up being shipped to Jonas's farm? Was it a rare mistake by the supplier, or was there something more mysterious at work behind the scenes? In the quiet hours of a cool, clear evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the Georgia sky turned a deep shade of indigo, Jonas stood alone by the coop, lost in thought. The hybrid chicks, now robust and alert, pecked quietly among the other hens. Blue watched from a short distance, its dark eyes reflecting the twilight. The genetic experts had departed for the day, yet the questions buzzed in Jonas's mind like distant thunder. In that moment, the mystery, so deeply entwined with the fate of his farm, seemed almost resolved. Jonas now understood that his life had been forever changed by a twist of fate. The single, strange specimen delivered in that battered parcel was not merely an exotic rooster with a different color, but something far more extraordinary whose genetic legacy had merged with that of his hens. The light green eggs, the unusual hatchlings, and the behavior of Blue were all pieces of a puzzle that nature had assembled in ways Jonas could hardly have imagined. For Jonas, the truth was bittersweet. On one hand, the discovery meant that his farm had become the birthplace of a revolutionary new breed, a living testament to the unpredictable forces of nature. On the other, it meant that the simple dream of prosperity was now forever tinged with the reminder that he had unwittingly tampered with the natural order. Jonas understood that his life had been forever altered. There were no more unanswered questions about the origins of his extraordinary flock. The truth lay hidden in the silent testimony of the green eggs and the resolute gaze of Blue, waiting to be fully revealed when fate allowed it. Weeks later, after further genetic testing and careful study, the experts would eventually disclose the final twist. Blue was not an ordinary rooster at all. In a revelation that left Jonas in tears, it was confirmed that the creature was, in fact, a cassowary, a wild and dangerous bird whose accidental introduction had set in motion a chain of events that defied all natural expectations. If you found this story moving and inspiring, please like and subscribe. Your support helps spread the message of hope, transformation, and the wild beauty of our world. Thank you for listening, and may you always carry hope in your heart.